So that concludes my opening remarks, and I will now hand over to Thibaut to introduce our first speaker.
Hello, everybody. Lovely to see all your beautiful faces today. And let me just share my screen. There we go. There's the speakers slide. So as we know, there are few females in the VC world, but of them, you'll find Dama. With a focus in early stage tech investments over the past 4 years, she has worked with Bethnal Green Ventures to help founders get funding. Outside of her paid work, she has volunteered at Help Age International and Empower Hack, and is a self-proclaimed fanatic of the metric system. So please, let's give a warm funding-focused welcome to Dama.
Thank you. Thank you. I do have to say, I love the metric system. And that's a sort of ever-growing struggle living in the UK and trying to figure out what is actually feet and inches. But thanks so much for having me. My name is Dama Sathianathan. My actual name is Dama Sathianathan, but Dama is absolutely fine. That is not the entire alphabet. My pronouns are actually her, and for anyone who needs a visual description, I am a brown woman wearing red lipstick and a red sweatshirt, call it pullover, but a sweatshirt and a big bangly necklace as well. And I'm very pleased to sort of see that there's a large proportion of entrepreneurs here, because we love talking to entrepreneurs at Bethnal Green Ventures, where I'm a partner. I've been involved in the sort of investing in tech for good founders, where a large proportion of our founders are actually identifying as women as well, and we'll get to sort of female founder focus in a bit as well. But just to sort of give you a brief insight into what we invest in and how we actually work, Bethnal Green Ventures has been investing in what we call tech for good ventures and tech for good founders, so into really ambitious founders who use technology to really tackle pressing social environmental challenges using technology, but doing so at scale and doing so with sort of a profit in mind, in order to actually ensure that you're building a sustainable business that can retain itself and continue to have exponential impact on people's life and the planet. Where do we start talking about female investment? Really, you've seen and heard some of the statistics earlier as well, and I've also shared the research report that mentioned that only 10 Black female founders have received VC funding over the past 10 years. That's from really excellent research that Extend Ventures, Erica Brodnick, has done. Highly recommend following her on Twitter as well. But another sort of staggering statistic that people might know is the one that came out at the beginning of 2019, 2018 perhaps, I am not entirely sure, which was published by the BVCA, the British Business Bank, and Diversity VC, and which essentially said that less than 1p of every pound invested in the UK went to female founded businesses, which when the report came out was incredibly shocking, and has sort of moved our dial within the B2B ecosystem as well to actually report on how we actually make our investment decisions as well. So we're very proud to say that 34p of every pound invested in just 2020 went to female founded businesses, with a large proportion to mixed gender teams as well. And we are one of the sort of signatories to the Investing in Women Code, which is really a great sort of movement to actually bring more accountability into the space. So yeah, very happy to be here, and happy to answer any questions that people might have around the sort of the world of tech for good investing and how we can drive more diversity and outcome and provide better access to capital to underrepresented founders.
Brilliant. Thank you, Dama. So anyone who wants to ask a question, please put it into the chat and we can follow up on that and forward to Dama. I think what I'd be interested in, Dama, and it's something I know that you guys are doing at the moment with Bethnal Green Ventures, is you have a new intake coming up of your very early stage program. And I know that there are quite a few early stage businesses involved here. So could you just tell us a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we say early stage investing, we mean early. And early stage is a stupidly broad term, but which essentially ranges from the ideation of wanting to build a business to up to Series A now, which has had crazy valuations if you look at the market. But again, when we say early, we mean early. And we largely invest into companies who are pre-product and pre-revenue. So have enough sort of validation that whatever tech product or service you want to build will be adopted, but haven't necessarily built the product yet. And that's where BGV as an investor comes in quite handy, especially for first-time entrepreneurs, because we do run a accelerator program and provide you with £30,000 in cash that you can use to pay yourself a salary, to cover your living expenses, to hire people into your team so you don't have to do it all alone, but provide you with that capital and the resources through a 12-week program to actually help you build the sort of business model and the commercial model that actually embeds purpose at the core of its business, but also help you validate your impact methodology so you can have that exponential impact on people and the planet. I have to say it's quite a competitive sort of program. So we run the program twice a year and make roughly 10 to 12 investments per cohort. So largely every year we make 10 to 24 investments at that accelerator stage and provide follow-on investment of £50,000 to £100,000 as part of your pre-seed or series up to a Series A round as well. But again, it's becoming increasingly competitive. So we receive applications from 250 to 300 companies per cohort and can only make those 10 to 12 investments per cohort. So that's less than 5% of success rate. But yeah, I will drop links to our application process in the chat tomorrow, which actually opens tomorrow. We're opening up applications for our next program. Yeah, tomorrow. Which is
who would suggest that I planted that question for you, eh? And that's brilliant. Thank you, because Gabby Mendes has asked that. This sounds so interesting. Do you have a website or details? So if you could pop those in when you're done, and then people can pick that up. And just to recap, so you invest £30,000, and in return for that, you take is it a 7% stake?
Yeah, we take a 7% stake. Yeah.
So it's a fixed valuation on that basis of any early stage company coming in. You take 7%, they get 30 grand, and then you put them through your accelerator process.
Exactly.
What is involved in the accelerator?
So it's at the moment it's still a digital first sort of approach, just COVID and safety permitting, but also to enable more founders who cannot necessarily go full-time on their ventures just yet because they have childcare responsibilities or just don't live in London, for example. So the program is still largely going to be run remotely online on Zoom and using different sort of tools and services, but you get quite a vast sort of network of amazing mentors that you can tap into. The BGV team is absolutely smashing. We are 10 women, 2 men, which is quite unusual in VC as well. And you have lifelong support that you get from BGB, because we urge people to also join our Q&A sessions. We run them virtually as well, one in person that's coming up on the 13th of December. But what we highly recommend to people, because there's always the emphasis on doing due diligence on founders, but there's equally an emphasis that founders have to do their due diligence on investors, because it matters who's on your cap table. So yeah, please do connect, get in touch with us. We have a very open, no warm introductions needed policy, so you can essentially just come to our website, sign up for a Q&A session, sign up to talk to our team about your idea, in a drop-in session, which is a bit more focused on your business specifically, and then see whether it's a fit and you want to apply.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And it's interesting because I was having a conversation 2 weeks ago with the senior partner of a medium-sized VC firm, And for people who have been following the stats, I mean, there has been more money pouring into VC in the last couple of years than ever before. Not necessarily always going to female founders, but that's a different issue. But I think in terms of expectation management, what you said is really good, where you said you're getting about 300 applicants for each cohort, and you've got room for 10 or 12. This chap told me in the 12 months to the end of September, they received over 1,000 applications in their fund, and they made 16 investments.
Yeah.
So that's a 1.66% success rate. So for those of you who are out there and you've sent in your pitch decks and you've sent in your things and you've connected with people and you've made all the calls and nothing's happening, it's not you, it's the system. And again, with part of the stuff I'm going to be doing in the next stage of the book, I'm going to be looking at, okay, what can we do to change the system? But there is an absolute wall of money going into VC, but there is also an absolute wall of new entrepreneurs setting up companies. And so whilst we're seeing record levels of funding, there's record levels of people chasing after it. So it's still the same challenge. And I know there are people who are on this call because I've had conversations with them who have been seeking funding for more than a year and not been successful. Can you just, let's see if we've got any more questions in the chat, but with that in mind, Dama, what would you say is the best way for an entrepreneur to have the best chance at getting accepted?
Yeah. So we try to make our investment approach and our sort of reasoning and how we make our investment decisions as open as possible. So a lot of content is geared towards giving founders the best chance to actually identify, how do you go about it, validating your business model? How do you go about validating your impact methodology? And where can you find resources to actually help you think about these in more detail? So what I would suggest in a sort of BGV's case is definitely check out our blogs, check out our different sort of involvement in different podcasts, for example, and put in the time to also get to know the investors and how they talk about what they're looking for. But more generally, I would also say that definitely sort of two aspects. One, find yourself a tribe, especially amongst this group as well, because we're all here to support female founders or people who identify as women who are building amazing businesses. So stay connected and provide each other the sort of peer support that you can get, because oftentimes we have seen female founded teams coming through our doors who have been rejected by BGV because it might be that we have invested into a similar business already, or we haven't seen enough traction to actually validate that this is a huge market opportunity that sees the sort of VC returns that our investment model adopts as well. But do not take no for an answer, essentially, and try again and ask for feedback where appropriate and where possible. And then just look into different databases that exist, like OpenVC, for example, which actually tells you a bit more around the sort of ticket sizes that VC funds invest in, as well as the sort of verticals and industries that people are interested in. And you can sort of retrospectively also work on the fund mechanics, because there are loads and loads of investors who are saying they're pre-seed, and they're actually not, because the minimum ticket size is $250K. But if you know what sort of the fund size is, their assets under management is in total, let's say investor A has a fund of 50 million and has said they're a pre-seed investor, but then you can sort of work out that they're largely going to make more seed investments that are larger than 500K, just because they need to sort of return their investment for the fund, certain expectations. So there's a really good slide deck that I'll put into the chat as well, where you can sort of try to determine how you can go about making those calculations.
Brilliant.
But
Thank
top tips.
So I've got two questions that's come up. Tracy has asked, Do you think there's also an age bias?
Yeah, definitely. We have an amazing founder who just turned 60, female founder building an absolute smashing business that connects sort of older people with younger people for intergenerational living, and also because accommodation in the UK sucks. And she's faced so much discrimination just by investors as well, who've basically told her, why don't you get a man who's really young to become the CEO of your business, and then you'll be able to raise money. So there's definitely still discrimination in the industry, but hopefully if you also look at the sort of signatories who've signed up to the Investing in Women Code, for example.
Yeah, and that's available on the UK government website for anyone who's interested. Just Google UK Investing in Women Code. And apologies, that question was from Joe, not Tracy, my bad. Sorry, Joe. The second question that we've got is from Thibaut. When looking at financial projections and models, what do you think is often missing, and how could models be improved?
So that's something that we teach in our program as well. So happy to share. I think it's really around sort of strong unit economics sometimes, and there's some really good resources actually that were created by Forward Partners. It's a resource hub called the Path Forward, which provides you with a lot of templates on sort of financial modeling and operational modeling as well. So these are, if you are building a business and you identify certain gaps in the sort of provision, let's say around accounting or finance, don't fret, because there are so many people who face the same problems and who have thankfully also shared templates and enabled others to sort of find resources on how you can do that effectively. It's just a matter of being able to find them. So again, highly recommend the Path Forward by Forward Partners, amazing sort of resource hub for founders, and the Entrepreneur's Handbook, which is really, really good, and also signposting to different funding opportunities.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you. And just a quick plug to say that if anyone's struggling with putting together models, my team, that's one of the services we offer in a sister company called Add Then Multiply. So if anybody is struggling with their model, please feel free to reach out and we can have a chat. Okay, terrific. Thank you so much, Dama. If I could ask you please to put your contact details, your LinkedIn, whatever, and anything else into the chat. And thank you. Thank you. It's wonderful to have you as our opening guest. Sadly, the time has come to an end, but it's been great. And we've had lots of good questions there. So thanks very much. And I hope you can stay for a little bit and hear some of the other speakers.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.